Hey, welcome to Guitar and Record, a show about adventurous guitar players and some of their best recordings. Today is Robert Fripp's Exposure. Came out in 1979, and an amazing cast of kind of session musicians that play on this record. Not necessarily a band effort, but some of the best and most energetic playing from Fripp and the other members of this recording that I can recall. This record, like I said, came out in '79, and it was preceded by a Brian Eno and Robert Fripp record called Evening Star. That's a great record as well. King Crimson had kind of come to an end in 1975 or so, right around then, and disbanded, and Robert kind of floated around and didn't do a ton of recording. But his Frippertronics thing came out of, or became more prevalent as far as him as a soloist during this time. And he did Let the Power Fall and God Save the Queen, which was a mixed record of Frippertronics and kind of punk aesthetic. And culminating with this record, which was supposed to be, I believe, a trio of records with Daryl Hall from Hall & Oates as the singer. That didn't work out. And so they, I think he probably just had kind of a bunch of ideas and they went into a studio and recorded it. So the first song is called, it's my least favorite as far as songs go, You Burn Me Up, I'm a Cigarette, which I believe the lyrics were penned by Fripp. And it's, like, to me, the weakest song on the record. But frenetic and kind of an interesting take on, like, 50s kind of rock rhythms and harmony. The next song, which is incredible, is called Breathless, and that is a revamp, in my eyes, of Lark's Tongues in Aspic Part 2. And it's way heavier and has some really cool turns, but it kind of uses the same rhythmic devices and kind of chordal devices in it to, in a way, a greater degree, and really impactful, really big sounding. The kind of the shining star outside of Fripp on this is Narada Michael Walden, the drummer that was in Mahavishnu Orchestra before this, and I'm not sure what he was doing right before this, but he was in Mahavishnu probably from 73 to 76, something like that. And he is on a few of the cuts on this, and is just stellar, an incredible drummer. And the drums sound live, they're not over, like, produced. It's kind of a very immediate, intimate sounding record in a lot of ways. So Breathless, amazing tune. And then the next song is Disengage, which starts with Frippertronics, and there's some spoken word, and then it kicks in with Peter Hamill from Van der Graaf Generator singing, and I remember hearing this for the first time, and I thought it was Rob Halford singing, which would be cool as well. He just adds this incredibly, like, visceral, or, screaming, basically, to the track, and really, really takes it to another place where I don't think a lot of other singers could do, at least that had worked with Robert. And the riff itself is incredible. Breathless, Disengage, and as we go further, there's a few others that are kind of in the same area of, like, the cool, kind of diminished, and all the Frippisms that we all know and love, as far as those single note runs that he does that are cool and have kind of informed anyone that listens to prog rock and plays guitar. And so anyway, Disengage, incredible song, and funny enough, the drummer on this is Phil Collins, and he does an incredible job as well. And then we move on to the song Chicago, and that starts out with an incredible big and meaty bass line and piano. And funny enough, I was listening back to this when I was doing this, and I was just blown away by the bass playing, and I had totally forgotten that it was Tony Levin that plays on all of it. And so the bass playing's incredible as well. And you start to hear a little bit of like what would become King Crimson, and some of the bass lines and some of the vocal stuff that Daryl Hall does. Just little kind of glimpses of what would become, King Crimson. So yeah, Chicago, great song as well. High energy, cool riff, great singing, over the top singing really, and there's some very, very guitar loops in there as well, or like they sound incredible, like kind of Frippertronics type stuff. I'm going to use that term pretty generally on this record because he's doing a lot of these. On this song, it's a lot of like, it's not Frippertronics, but it's like these cool fade-ins, like rush of like ambient guitar and stuff like that. It doesn't necessarily sound like a loop, but really neat. Exposure, the title track of the record, is got this amazingly cool groove thanks to the drummer and the bass playing, and Jerry Marotta is the drummer on this one with Tony Levin, and as most of you probably know, they were kind of a big part of the Peter Gabriel rhythm section for quite a few records. And so it doesn't have that element to it, I'm not saying that, but you can tell they've worked a lot together. And then there's a really cool funky guitar line underneath the Frippertronics and what's going on by Robert, and I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting if it's him. And then I checked into it, and Sid McGuinness is doing the kind of the funky guitar rhythm stuff, and he's the guitar player, obviously, for or was for the David Letterman band or whatever they're called. And so yeah, there's some cool spoken word stuff. Again, Jerry Marotta is the drummer; he's really cool, and some amazingly strained vocals by Terry Roche. Or Roach, I think. I'm not sure how they pronounce her name, but Robert did a record with the Roach sisters, or maybe a couple, and I think that's how they got in contact. And that record may have came out around this time. I'm not exactly sure. And then, like I said, there's some amazing Frippertronics on this one. That's kind of a highlight. Then we get to the first song that Daryl Hall, or maybe the only one that he's really featured in on this. And I believe there's been another release of this record where there's more of the Daryl Hall stuff, and there may be, the official record may have been released. I can't remember. I remember like waiting for something to happen and kind of losing interest or just forgetting about it. So anyway, that song is called North Star, an incredible ballad. And this is a song where you hear Daryl Hall do like some Adrian Belew-ist type singing stuff, like kind of like soul singing. And that's not what I consider Adrian Belew, but he is like a soulful type singer, and obviously Daryl Hall is. But there's just some repetitive, like he repeats a couple of phrases and repeats them really quickly together that remind me of Adrian Belew and some of his vocal ideas with King Crimson. The guitar, like the rhythm guitar parts on this are incredibly beautiful, clean, kind of really big sounding guitar chords that it's just really an interesting part, and it's obviously Robert, and really cool to hear him do stuff like that, which he's done on other early King Crimson, but this isn't arpeggiated, it's almost like strummed chords or something like that. It's pretty neat. And then what's a highlight on this is Petal Steel, which again is Sid McGuinness. So this Petal Steel part completely, like with the other textures in the song, make it really an interesting song, and Daryl Hall does a great job on this. And then we move to NY3, I guess is what it is. And that is like Frippertronics and a lot of great unison rhythm stuff. And just again, this is like the all these songs that I've talked about already. Breathless, Disengage, Chicago, Exposure, North Star, well, not North Star, but NY3. Tons of energy, really, really cool stuff. And then on NY3, again, it's Narada Michael Walden on drums, and he just blows it out of the water, as far as I'm concerned. So basically, the 4 or 5 songs we talked about already make this record incredible. I'm skipping over a few, just because, but I think overall it's a really, really strong, idiosyncratic record for like Fripp, who's already taken tons of chances before, but this seems way out of his comfort zone from my perspective. And then the next song that's kind of interesting, and it takes a little bit to read it, is I may not had enough of me, but I have had enough of you. And so Peter Hamill, again, incredible, over-the-top singing, and again, Terry Roche is singing as well, and they're kind of not trading phrases, but they're kind of going back and forth. And Narada Michael Walden is on drums on this as well, and amazing playing there as well. And then we kind of come towards the end of the record, and there's Water Music 1, which starts out with J.G. Bennett, kind of a philosopher that Fripp was into with Frippatronics, and then that kind of coalesces into Here Comes the Flood, the song with Peter Gabriel, and an amazing ballad with Frippatronics. So that is an amazing ballad, and I think that also appeared on the Peter Gabriel third record, or maybe I think it's the third one. I can't remember what they're called and all the and what order they're in and all of that, but an amazing song. And then that's a pretty long piece, and then that coalesces it back into Water Music 2, which is kind of the bookend of the Water Music 1, just Frippatronics. Some really amazing Frippatronics, like kind of the best on the record. And so that's awesome, like way to end a record, and then there's like a little postscript thing that's just, I don't know, Fripp talking and saying something and then walking out a door. So, in conclusion, check this record out. I think it's some of Fripp's most heaviest guitar playing, and articulated great lines, and some of his best Frippatronics. They're all those great lines from, from King Crimson from the late 60s up until the mid 70s, coming together with Frippatronics, with him being able to do some of the heaviest playing that I've heard him do up until that point. And the songs that are strong are some of his best. So check it out. Robert Fripp, Exposure, 1979. And I'm not going to talk a lot about King Crimson on the show, but that's definitely a huge band for me. And so if you're new to Robert Fripp, I've got quite a few of the reviews of some of my favorite records, kind of more focused on some of his kind of solo, more guitar-focused stuff, whether it's Frippatronics or a League of Crafty Guitar Players. And then like this one where he's just playing full-on great guitar, electric guitar. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please subscribe and check this out. You won't be sorry. All right, thanks.